Dr. Samir treated the human body as an intricate system of valves, pistons, and circuitry that he alone possessed the skill to reassemble. To him, surgery was a form of engineering, where every patient was a set of malfunctioning components waiting for his calibration. This sense of absolute precision extended into his private hours. In the dead of night, Samir scavenged the city's margins for stray animals and unclaimed bodies, using the hospital's basement to conduct medical trials that no ethics board would sanction. He was driven by a specific obsession, prying open the final biological boundary. He wanted to graduate from a mechanic of the living into an architect of life itself, reversing the process of decay. Mere repair was no longer enough. To achieve total dominance over nature, Samir required the ability to command the dead back into the light. Inside a glass chamber flooded with reactive chemicals, Samir restarted the heart of an unclaimed corpse. But while the lungs began to cycle air, the subject remained a vacant statue, failing to respond to a single one of his verbal cues. Samir's frustration turned to violence. Treating the unmoving body as a defective piece of equipment, he dragged it to the alleyway and threw it out into the dark. Moments after leaving his control, the body's eyes snapped open. It lay in the shadows, wearing a knowing smile Samir was never meant to see. Samir pivoted his research toward a more abstract methodology. He began trying to extract a living duplicate of himself by isolating his own reflection, believing he could pull a controllable consciousness out of the mirror surface. He transitioned from reanimating physical husks to attempting to manufacture a soul from a flat surface. He spent his nights staring into the glass, waiting for the two-dimensional image to acquire mass. The mirror project initially appeared to be a success. Shadows began to stir within the glass, moving with what Samir perceived as perfect obedience to his own will. This schematic illustrates the law of symmetry. Every action on one side of a mirror mandates an equal, opposite reaction. Pulling a reflection out creates a vacuum. As mass enters the physical world, a corresponding void opens behind the glass. The reflection began to exercise its own agency, mocking Samir from within the glass, standing perfectly still while he moved, or slowly carving wounds into its own skin that Samir could not explain. The dynamic had flipped. The surgeon was now a passive observer, watching helplessly as his own image dictated the terms of their existence. Samir grabbed a heavy iron hammer and swung it with everything he had, shattering the laboratory mirror into thousands of pieces. The impact destroyed the glass, but the physical barrier was the only thing keeping the two worlds in their proper place. Without it, the equilibrium was free to balance itself. Samir dropped the hammer as a deep, jagged laceration suddenly tore open across his own stomach, bleeding from the exact wound his reflection inflicted. The shards on the floor hummed with energy. They instantly flew back together, fusing into a thick, transparent wall that looked more like solid ice than glass. The smiling reflection walked forward into the laboratory, stepping into the real world. At the same moment, Samir was hauled backward by an invisible force, disappearing into the pitch-black void of the mirror. The swap was complete. The creator had unknowingly traded places with his creation, becoming the very phantom he had tried to master. Inside the mirror, there is only a suffocating, heavy darkness. Samir could see hundreds of glowing eyes watching him from the depths, the trapped remnants of his previous experiments. His body began a violent adaptation to a two-dimensional plane. His bones snapped and his internal organs were crushed as his anatomy was forcefully flattened against the glass barrier. Physical sensation vanished. When he tried to scream, his voice came out as the sound of a window cracking, and glittering shards of glass spilled from his throat and onto the floor. In the final stage of the flattening process, Samir's facial features smoothed over. His skin turned into a hard, silver, reflective crust. Every biological organ had been completely overwritten. Samir's entire form had solidified into a single, silver, inanimate slab of perfect reflectivity. In the real lab, the clone approached the newly formed pane of glass mounted to the wall. He stared into it, looking directly at what was left of the surgeon. The clone picked up a surgical scalpel and drew it across its own wrist. On the outside, the skin remained unmarred and dry. Inside the glass, the trapped Samir felt the searing heat of the blade. Red streaks began to weep down the inside of the mirror as he was forced to endure every injury his reflection inflicted. Samir's existence was now a voiceless one. He had become a permanent object, proving that while a mirror will always show the truth, it can never speak it.